Hello everyone, welcome back to the SMITE Comprehensive Guide to Osiris. Now I don't normally upload matches in which one side surrenders so early. In fact, the enemy team surrenders right after the laning phase in this match. The reason why I'm uploading this is because this is exactly how you play against and as Osiris. Alright, the Sun Wukong and I are very evenly matched in this fight. And the laning phase is a beautiful dance of us trying to outplay the other continuously throughout, individually each of us making mistakes and the other trying to capitalize off of these mistakes. Alright? And this is why, very specifically, I am uploading this. Because it is just such a beautiful laning phase for the two of us. Alright, now again, just as a reminder, the laning opponent here is specifically the Sun Wukong. So let's hop right into setup. Here's me throwing down the ward. Right, here's, I'll let the taking of the blue buff run. Now again, I go with my usual opening of the stage 2 teleport, the health chalice, the 5 multi-potions, and the death's toll, right? So I'm approaching from this way because for Osiris, I prefer this angle, right? He, fights me. Now, he, interestingly enough, goes for this poke. This is actually, for him, a bit of a mistake. He shouldn't be wanting me to get that poke, all right? Because, again, as Osiris, what I want is to fight him in waves. So that was actually a mistake on his part. The intrusive thoughts won there, it looked like, because he almost didn't poke me, right? If you actually watch, he kind of hesitates, and then he goes for it. So he sees me, and then he goes for it, and then he's like, well, maybe I shouldn't, right? Because he backs off right afterwards. But, right now, what I want to do is fight him in the wave, because, of course, I've got my potions running, I've got my death's toll, I'm healing off of him and his minions, and he knows this. That's why he's backing off right here, right? He's used his big wave clear, which is his ability, and he's never going to outclear me at this point, nor is he going to win this boxing match, right? So I get some poke in there, and then I back off. Now, I back off, A, because I didn't have anything else, and B, again, you can see where, with Ao Kuang coming in at this point, I can reasonably expect Poseidon to be coming in, and of course, Poseidon comes in right afterwards, right? Ao Kuang beats him because Ao Kuang has a slightly higher base movement speed than Poseidon does, by like 5 or 10 points, that's why. But, that's about it. Ao Kuang clears that, which leaves me free to clear this, right? And once again, he's just trying to clear the waves. Now, he does this because of, obviously, 72 transformations. He actually goofs this a little bit. You can see where he only hits the front line, which isn't great. He actually, with the amount of health he had, he could have gone up to his front line, thrown down a magic cudgel, ran back to my back line, and gone for my back line. And while I could have chased him to try to damage him, and I would have done some good damage to him, I wouldn't have likely been able to kill him at this point. Again, keep in mind that Osiris has a bit of a hard time catching up with people who have some kind of ability that helps them move away, and Sun Wukong's 72 transformations would easily be enough to get him out of a sticky situation involving Osiris, right? So he actually does goof that. He actually winds up being pushed up fairly a good bit here. So, of course, we go back to clearing the wave, and this is actually accidental on his part, but it was a mistake on my part, because this was primarily due to my positioning, so this is my mistake rather than his intention. But I come in here, right, and then I'm just in a position where I can be popped up like that. Now, maybe he was aware of the possibility of that, but unfortunately, the way that Sun Wukong's pop-up works with the bull form, he can't really force a specific direction, so he might have, again, based on his skill level, he has a diamond level Sun Wukong, he probably accepted that, there was a possibility that would happen, but I shouldn't have been that close to his tower line. I do it again here, but this time I'm more respectful of the bull. You can see where I backed off a little bit there, but I should not have been that close knowing his 72 transformations was up. That was me taking an unnecessary risk. Now I'm going for the totem because obviously I have the time, and Ao Kuang isn't here, and then I go right back towards it. Now at this particular point, I am looking a bit more towards damaging him. I don't know where Poseidon is at this point, who is, I'm pretty sure, their jungler, considering he had the speed buff, and I believe I check later on the items, and he does have jungling stuff. But now Sun Wukong is trying to poke me out here. Now he's trying to poke me out here because, of course, he has minion advantage. And to some extent, he can get away with that with Osiris, whereas someone like Bellona might give him a harder time because she can hit all the minions. But at this particular point, he's used all of his mana for that. He really shouldn't have tried that, right? In this particular instance, you know, what he's trying to do is hit level 5 before I do so he can ult me, but he no longer has the mana really for any of that. Now, I'm backing off very specifically here because I have no more minions to heal off of, alright? So, I no longer have any reason to stick around, and I'm not going to be able to outsustain him at this point. He does, incidentally, have Warrior's Axe, something I already knew based on how he was healing, but that's why I back off there. I no longer have any of his minions to heal off of, so now I would be at risk. So at this point I go back because I don't know where Poseidon is and I don't want to be that far up in his lane, right? I grab Persistent Teleport because this is going to be one of those long drawn out laning phases. I can already tell. We're very, like I said, at this point I already know we're fairly evenly matched. And also that Sun Wukong and Osiris is a very, I want to say, long a long laning phase for the two of them. So, you know, again, I'm fighting into this wave because I have those AoEs, I have my ults. He's just gotten his. I was about to say about to get his, but he literally just got his. So now, again, I'm going for that poke. I'm going to go for the totem at this point. And this is one of the two possibilities of what happens in a solo lane. Either the matchup is so close in the solo lane that just each side is just trading blows and poking each other out, hoping for a great gank, which is basically what the two of us are doing here. We're just waiting for a great gank by our respective junglers. That's all we're waiting for. Or the matchup is lopsided and one solo lane just dominates the other side, right? These are basically the two options. In this particular instance, we're very evenly matched. Now, normally I wouldn't want to fight him in a 1v1 like that, right? Right here, you can actually see where he kind of aggressively initiates on me once I clear out his minion wave here because he wants to fight at this point because now I don't have any minions to heal off of. I fight into this primarily due to the fact that he's much lower on mana than I am. Okay, this is my primary reason why. So at the end of the day, furthermore, I also have not used my potions. I don't know how many potions he's got, but I know I have all of mine, right? You can actually see him using a potion right there, or two possibly, right? So that's why I fought into that where normally I wouldn't. And I think that caught him by surprise, right? Because he wasn't expecting me to actually fight into him at that particular point. Because normally you wouldn't want to. So I start fighting him and I don't back off and he's surprised and he starts to try to leave, right? That's what he's doing right there because he wasn't expecting me to look to fight back. Because again, normally an Osiris wouldn't, but I had the advantage of stats right there, right? So I went whole hog into this. Now at this particular point, once again, he is fighting me in lane. Now I ult him here because I expect that I have the ability to kill him. Now I'm wrong, right? I was expecting to hit a little harder than I actually was. That was my misjudgment there. I was expecting that, oh, you know, I'd cleared most of his wave. My wave would be going after him. I can do this. Incorrect, right? So now I've used my ult, and he's healing off of his ult, and he has the potential of heavily damaging me. Now, the reason why he doesn't pursue me, because you can see I run away because I'm concerned he is going to pursue me. Alright, I immediately turn around and I just straight up leave, because I'm in a very vulnerable position. You can see where he hits me with the very edge of his ult, and I'm expecting, alright, he's just hit me with the edge of his ult, he's going to chase me. He does not. He does not, because I suspect he doesn't feel comfortable with as low as his mana is to attack me and also fend off my wave, because you'll notice he immediately magic cudgels my wave to help clear it, and then he's got very low mana. He might have been able to use 72 transformations after the fact, but he probably wouldn't have been able to pull off any more. Right? Now, I'm backing off here. The reason why I'm backing off here, right, at this particular point, I'm not going forward and aggressing. The reason why is because despite how low his mana is, he's still here. Both of us have our ults down, but my ult is going to come back first. A fact I'm sure he knows. And yet, here he is. So I'm personally very concerned that maybe Poseidon is on his way. Right? I'm expecting to get ganked. This is why I don't initiate here. Now, whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know, but the belief is enough. I believe I'm about to get ganked, so I cautiously re-enter because I'm not seeing any Poseidons, and he used 72 transformations, so I feel a little bit more comfortable fighting a little bit here, going after some minion waves, right? I do some poke on him. He does some poke on me. I get some more poke, and then I back off because, again, he's really low on mana and he's not moving in. Hold on, I want to talk about builds really quick, because what I'm checking here, very specifically, is first off, I'm double checking whether or not Poseidon actually is their mid lane, which I do expect, right? And lo and behold, he has the Eye of the Jungle. So yes, he is playing jungle here. The second thing I'm wondering is, will I need Toxic Blade? And because Sun Wukong is definitely going for Soul Eater, this is stage 2 Soul Eater, there is literally nothing else this can be, I know that I'm going to need Toxic Blade. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Professor, you have anti-heal in your ult. Why would you need Toxic Blade on top of that? Well, it comes down to the fact that Sun Wukong's ult is incredibly impactful in terms of healing. It's basically a second life for Sun Wukong. However, by ulting him as he ults, as he prepares his ult, I can completely nullify the healing from his ult. So I want to be saving my ult for either that or as an escape. Okay? So I don't want to necessarily be using it just randomly whenever, right? That attempt where I used it because I thought I could kill him earlier, that was a great example of why that doesn't really work. At least most of the time. Again, that was my mistake, but if he's building Soul Eater and I don't build Toxic Blade, then eventually he's going to wind up out-sustaining me due to a combination of his Warrior's Axe and the healing from Soul Eater. Right, now Soul Eater does have the happy circumstance of needing stacks, so I can finish my Berserker's Shield first, which is a really good thing for me because it's going to help mitigate the damage he's doing, and then right afterwards I'll still probably have some time to build Toxic Blade. Alright, but that's what I'm checking right here specifically is Poseidon's starter item, because that's going to tell me, and also whether or not I'll need Toxic Blade. And I was originally going to go back here, but I see Cerberus. You can see Cerberus coming in here. Cerberus goes in, and we have the wave, of course, so I'm okay with at least some fighting. You'll notice I very specifically did not directly hit him, right? It's because I didn't want to pull that minion aggro right at that moment. I wanted to heal up off of the wave while Cerberus was distracting Sun Wukong, which kind of worked. Now at this point, I'm going back for my blue buff because I want to grab that before I go back, right? Because it was already dropped for me. And back into lane I go. Now I go back into lane because my potion has been healing me, and again, he's hideously low on mana. He probably has one more ability left in him, which he's probably going to use for 72 transformations if he gets hard pressed, but I can get away with this, right? My only concern is Poseidon, but even then, given that I have my ult up and I have the mana for it, I wasn't too concerned. I can always ult away from Poseidon very easily, and Poseidon would have a very hard time catching up to me, which is why I went back in there. At this point, I'm just going to clear this because I know Sun Wukong isn't going to come after me. There he is right there. So off we go. Clear this. Lovely. Now, I see him backing here, so what I want to do is do some damage to the wave really quick. First, I'm expecting to see him teleport back in, pretty short order. There he is. So I'm going to finish this back line off, and then I'm going to get out of dodge, right? Because even though I'm ahead of him by a level, he's just come back full HP, full mana, and with new items, right? He actually pokes me there, probably to delay me, I suspect, but it doesn't really make a difference. Back I go, work on the Berserker's Shield, buy my potions, and that way I can sustain as long as possible very specifically, and back in we go, right? You can see he just caught up to me in level there. I'm going to try to fight him here, or at least poke him. Now, I'm not expecting or looking to kill him. I'm really not. I just want to weaken down his HP a little bit now before his Soul Eater really starts stacking, on the off chance that Ao Kuang wants to gank him at some point, because right now that's how either of us are going to win the lane, is whoever gets the first successful gank, or I won't even say successful gank, whoever gets the first fatal gank wins, right? Because Cerberus ganked over here, and while it did give me another wave that I could clear and forced Sun Wukong back, it didn't win the lane for me, it just gave me a lead. Which is fine, it was a good gank by the Cerberus for that specific reason. I did gain a lead there, but at the end of the day, it wasn't going to win me the whole lane. So here's Ao Kuang, which is, pretty much what I expected based on the fact that he was in the right jungle. Here's Sun Wukong attacking. Now, I go hard on Sun Wukong because I kind of expect that Ao Kuang will come in and gank him once he's done stealing his blue buff. Now, you might be wondering, well, why is Ao Kuang bothering with the blue buff right now? Why not just straight up kill Sun Wukong? Well, ideally, you would just go after Sun Wukong, and I actually was expecting him at this time to go after Sun Wukong directly. Him going for the blue buff is okay. It really ensures that should the Sun Wukong die and have his teleport up and, teleport back in, that he's guaranteed not to get that blue buff. Also, a secondary reason, I think, from at least the Ao Kuang's perspective, is he's probably expecting me to wear down the Sun Wukong a little bit more, so he has an easier time ganking him. Now remember, both Sun Wukong and Osiris are very intimidating gank targets, right? Osiris is unusually tanky for a warrior due to his passive, and is very hard to stick to due to his kit. Sun Wukong has his ult, which at this point is still up, which I think the Ao Kuang is assuming here, thereby making it very difficult indeed to gank Sun Wukong successfully, right? So I think he's trying to wait for me to get Sun Wukong down a little bit more, because his best shot at killing Sun Wukong is straight up ulting him, right? Sun Wukong ults towards me, the Ao Kuang kills him, and now I have a really substantial lead. But unfortunately for me, and also the Ao Kuang, I have taken enough damage where I have to back myself. Now this still gives me a really substantial lead, and honestly in the long run, and I jump here because I want to make sure that I don't get killed by Poseidon while I'm stunned, which is my big fear here. In fact, there's you can actually see where I wasn't entirely wrong. I was just jumping the gun a little bit, because here's Poseidon right here, clearing the Scorpion with Set, who is their mid laner here. So Poseidon was on his way over here. You can even see him moving towards the right, but since I can see him on the mini-map there and he's being distracted by Cerberus, I know at the very least I have time for this wave really quick. Now Cerberus has lost vision, but I still have what I suspect is enough time. I'm going to run by this really quick, and here's Poseidon. He blinks on me, gives me a heart attack. I expected him to show up. I wasn't expecting the blink for some reason, but I do make it out barely, and that's fine, right? But now I'm in the lead in my lane, which is a great thing for me. And in the long run, I will win this lane as a result of that. Now, at this particular point, we do have Ao Kuang in lane, right? I think he just killed Poseidon, which is a great thing for me, because that means that I am in less danger of being ganked. I clean up the totem. I'm going in here for this. And the Sun Wukong is level 9 now. And I suspect what happened is the Sun Wukong stole some of Poseidon's jungle so he could catch up to me, which means now we're pretty much back where we were before, which is fine, right? That is, again, for the Sun Wukong, that is absolutely the correct move. Now, that's going to put Poseidon behind. I think this is part of the reason why Poseidon is currently 3 levels down, right? I think that when Sun Wukong respawned, I think he stole some of the back jungle here. At the very least, these harpies here, and he probably went for this harpy, the scorpion thing right here, his version of this, to catch up to me, is what I suspect happened, and that would be part of the reason why Poseidon is down so far from Ao Kuang, despite having only died, I think, once or twice at this point. Definitely once. I think he's died twice at this particular point in time, but, we're back to kind of square one here, with me having a slight lead. After all, Sun Wukong just hit level 10, and I'm about to hit level 11, so I'm approximately just shy of a level ahead of him, right? So now I'm, of course, clearing. He went back. Why he went back, I'm not quite sure. He was healthy enough in terms of health and mana to not have a problem. Turns out, no, he didn't go back. He actually went for his blue buff. I don't know why this didn't occur to me at the time, but I was convinced at this time that he had gone back, right? I have no idea why. But that was my thought process at the time. So I clear the totem because I've cleared the wave, and I don't want to push him under, pressed towards his tower, because I don't know where Poseidon is. And right now, Poseidon's going to be paying a lot closer attention to me here, because Sun Wukong has died one more time than I have, which puts Sun Wukong behind. I definitely have a lead, and they're not going to want that, right? And you'll notice I continuously am trying to poke Sun Wukong, while working on the wave. I'm actually going really hard on the engagement here. He's got low mana. I have minions to heal off of. And I'm just trying my absolute best to, do as much damage as possible. Again, with this matchup, I'm not likely to kill him here, right? He uses his ult. I whiff mine. If I had hit that, I probably could have killed him afterwards. That option existed. In fact, here comes Poseidon again. Again, Poseidon's coming over here because he wants to try to make sure that Sun Wukong doesn't lose lane. But if I'd hit that ult, I could have killed Sun Wukong, but Poseidon would have killed me right afterwards. So would it have been worth it? Probably not. So indirectly, whether I hit the ult or not, we probably would have stayed in the same status quo. Now, Cerberus does come over here with an excellent gank here. Great ults. I just don't have my ults, and then Neith shoots me with, or targets me with her ult, which ensures effectively that I can't really chase that hard. Cerberus goes in on this, but this is not something that I want. Again, we don't know where some of the enemy team is. Turns out most of them happen to be in mid lane and near mid jungle, but that's, you know, fine. I thank Cerberus anyways because it was a good ult. Right, always try and thank people if you can, because they did go out of their way. The Cerberus did sacrifice some golden experience to wander all the way over here, and of course I'm now in a slightly better position. He's trying to back, I'm trying to stall him out as much as possible. You know, here he is back. Now, what I should do here, really, after he uses 72 transformations right here, is I should ult him. I don't. I just go hard on the abilities here. And I auto-attack him. If I'd ulted him there, there's a possibility I could have killed him because he is fairly low on life. He was very low on mana. Here's Kuzenbo coming to gank me, which is a thing. Now, I don't know why the Kuzenbo came over to gank me at that particular moment, knowing that Sun Wukong was really low on health and mana, unless he was just coming over with the intention of covering the wave, which, based on his behavior later on in this match, I believe is what he was looking to do. So I clear the Scorpion, I'm clearing the wave. Here is Kuzenbo. This is the point I was talking about. Kuzenbo is, I'm pretty sure, just trying to clear the wave. Now, I don't want to waste resources on Kuzenbo because I know he's going to be leaving, and I know as the enemy support, he's going to be nigh impossible for me to kill, right? He's not going to kill me, to be sure, but I'm also not going to kill him, and that's a waste of mana, and that's a waste of health, because I will still take health damage from that. So I go back, I grab my Toxic Blade, right? And I grab the Ankh in case my ult is down when Sun Wukong decides he's going to use his ult, because I want some kind of counter to that. Additionally, the Set heals himself by quite a bit when he ults, based on the number of auto attacks he busts out, and Neith, of course, has a self-heal in her kit, and probably is building some form of life steal on top of that. So it's going to be turning out to be fairly effective in the teamfight stage anyways. But, you know, here I am, I'm just farming up, trying to farm as much as possible, get as many minions under the tower. Now, I wasn't initially aware that Sun Wukong was back when I went under tower. It was only when he whiffed his magic cudgel that I was aware. So I turn around and leave, because obviously I don't want to fight him under his tower. I'm gonna go take a Scorpion, you know, get that farm. I'm trying to get up to level 14. Now, he initiates on me here very specifically due to the fact that we're not in the wave, right? He wants this fight, because I don't have any minions to heal off of, but unfortunately, it's very easy for me to get to the minions, and he backs up by nature anyways, which is interesting. He just seems to do that when he's auto-attacking people. So we get to the wave anyways, and I wind up healing and clearing them anyways, so it really didn't make a difference, but now we're alone, and I've gotten a nice advantage from that whole fiasco, and now I'm looking to press that advantage as much as possible. He uses 72 transformations. Pretty standard stuff, but I'm in a really great position. Now, what I'm looking at right here is, I'm wondering where Poseidon is, right? Because I haven't seen Poseidon in a hot minute. Sun Wukong is not in good condition, but he's also not going back. Now, part of that is obviously because his teleport is not, he just teleported back, but, you know, why is he so far to the line, right? To the point where I'm getting a lot of great pokes. So I'm expecting Poseidon to show up. So I'm going to go back and go for my blue buff because I need to get that anyways. And this will also get me out of Poseidon's range should Poseidon actually be kicking around like I'm expecting. Again, I haven't seen him on the minimap in a minute or two, so I'm kind of nervous about it, right? So I grab my blue buff and off we go. Back in, we're looking to farm, right? Now, it is roughly at this point where you see, and this is fairly interesting, now Sun Wukong and I are the only lane that still has tier 1 towers, right? Both sides still have tier 1s. Anhur has won his lane. Janus has just won his lane. Now, what this means to me, as a solo laner, locked in what is essentially perpetual solo lane combat with an evenly matched opponent, is, alright, I'm going to get a great multi-person gank. I'm expecting at this point, based on how Cerberus has been playing, I'm expecting Cerberus Now Kwang at some point to pop on over and kill Sun Wukong, and from there we push down the tower. That is what I'm expecting. It is simply a matter of when they have the time to get around to this, because now Janus has taken his tower, his tier 1, and so has Anhur, right? That's fine. That is absolutely fantastic. So all I'm doing is trying to stall things out and basically not die. Now, Sun Wukong hasn't gone back. And so I'm going to try to press him as hard as possible. Now, again, my perception is at some point in the relatively near future, I'm going to be seeing a multi-person gank from my teammates. So I want to be doing as much damage to him as possible, and I actually make some incorrect guesses as to how he's going to behave here. I completely whiff as a result, but I'm still looking to do that poke, I'm still looking to do that damage. He's still got low mana, so I know I can rely at least upon only a certain amount of his abilities being used. And I'm just, again, looking for that. I'm waiting for him to 72 transformations so I can catch him on the return. That kind of works. And I'm just working to do as much damage as possible right now. Again, I have zero expectation of killing him here. I'm just trying to prep him for a nice gank. Right? But he goes under tower, so I'm going to go for the Scorpion here, because I'm obviously not going to chase him under tower. Go clear this. I'm watching that fight in the jungle there. Now, I'm watching that fight specifically because I'm wondering if I need to be over there, right? At this particular moment, I'm a level ahead, so I can afford to miss a wave or two if I really need to, but my team seems to do fairly well overall. They kill 2 people by the time the enemy team even kills 1, so it seems like it went well for my teammates over there overall. So I'm not too concerned. Now, he's going back. I was going to try to stop him, but my sickle wouldn't... The cooldown was too long. It didn't activate in time. So, alright, now I know I'm going to have to just poke him back out to the point where he can get easily ganked again, which is what I'm going to try to set up for. But I have to wait for him to come out of the tower. I wind up invading his jungle because, at this point, why not? Right, the mid-tier 1 tower is gone, so I don't need to worry too much about being discovered by an enemy there. I don't know who got that Scorpion, to be honest. Actually, let me see if I can figure that out. Who gets the Scorpion? He does. Alright, because I didn't get any gold or experience from that, which means he successfully stole his own Scorpion away from me, which is fine. I was just doing it for a bit of bonus gold and experience. Now, again, I am going really hard on him because I am trying to prep him for a gank. I realize that I'm taking a little bit more damage than I would like from his minions because I haven't been back in a while. You can say I have 3,000 gold. It's been quite a few minutes since I've been back, so I'm, at this point, approximately an item down in terms of actual item ownage. And here's the gank I was expecting. Anhur comes over, which is the surprise here. Like I said, I was expecting the Cerberus, I was expecting the Kwang, I was not expecting the Anhur to show up, and then we have me almost dying to Kuzenbo. I take a tower shot, but I get out of here. I have no idea how Ao Kuang killed the Sun Wukong, but I'm looking to go back in at this point, because, hey, you know, at the very least, I can help take this tower. Bop. Kuzenbo, Ao Kuang gets that nice ult, and then we take the tower. Now, this isn't too unusual of a situation. You know, the Cerberus and I stand here and body block, but this isn't too unusual for really evenly matched solo opponents with a good god matchup. Again, Osiris and Sun Wukong are a really even matchup between the two of them, generally speaking. And as a result of that, we are able to successfully take that tower, and they surrender, like, I think at 20 minutes even, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe it's a couple seconds later, but I'm pretty sure they surrender now or very close to it. No, it wasn't 20 seconds even. But they surrender very soon. And it's just such a clean back and forth of the two of us. I'm grabbing Executioner here, and then I decide better of this, and then they surrender. Now, the itemization here doesn't matter, because I can tell you exactly the 3 items that Sun Wukong had for most of that. First, he went into Warrior's Axe, then he went into Soul Eater, as you saw, and then he went into Breastplate of Valor. Now, you might be wondering, Professor, why didn't he build Brawler's Speedstick? Why did you build Toxic Blade? Well, Toxic Blade, again, has to do with Soul Eater. Soul Eater is going to give him more sustain than Death's Toll is going to give me. Death's Toll is good sustain, don't get me wrong, but it's a very specific amount of health and mana per hit, right? That is a flat amount. And as a result of that being a very flat amount, and it's a very low flat amount, it's only 6 health and I think 4 mana off the top of my head if I remember correctly, but it's a very low flat amount. So even if you were to, say, build Brawler's Speedstick in this particular example, that is a 40% reduction of healing. Except that is only a 40% reduction of 6 HP, which essentially just leaves me healing, rounding up, 4 health rather than 6. I'm only healing 2 less HP per auto attack, and that's, of course, with rounding. The actual number, if you're curious, is 3.6. But even so, that's still not a great reduction in how much I'm healing per auto attack, right? Whereas by building Toxic Blade, I can prevent Soul Eater from healing more than that for him, because Soul Eater is, once fully stacked, is healing him for 25% of his ability damage and 15% of his auto attack damage, right? Which can be somewhat difficult to overcome with just Death's Toll unless you reduce that, which is exactly what you saw here. But that's why he didn't build Brawler's Beatstick. It really wouldn't have affected my internal heal that much. Now, maybe later on when I build Death's Embrace and it's healing me a percentage of my max HP, that might have been a different story for him. But building Brawler's Beatstick against somebody with Death's Toll isn't really going to do you that much good. If they build Aussie or some other form of lifesteal on top of that, that's a different conversation. If I had built Aussie, he absolutely would have gone in for Brawler's Beatstick. However, due to the fact that I just was using Death's Toll, he did not need Brawler's Beatstick because it wasn't really going to do him any good, right? And again, a lot of this particular match was, the two of us poking back and forth, doing a little bit of boxing, looking for bonus farm wherever we could. I stole a Scorpion a couple of times. He defended it once. Looking for extra jungle. Right, the Poseidon made a couple of good attempts at ganking me. Now, the reason why the Poseidon was so interested in ganking me, besides the obvious reason that was the only way that lane was going to severely move, was primarily due to the fact that if he could kill me, then that'd be great, right, for his Sun Wukong. Now, the reason why the Poseidon wasn't nearly as concerned about me being Osiris as a lot of other junglers would, is because Poseidon does magic damage, which Osiris does not mitigate as much of with his passive. He only mitigates up to a maximum of 8%, right? So magic damage is always going to hit him a little harder than physical damage. So that's why the Poseidon was relatively unafraid of trying to gank me. It just so happened that I had more people ganking my lane. I had Cerberus, I had Ao Kuang, right? And even though Sun Wukong did die once was not enough due to the fact that Sun Wukong, I suspect, like I said, dove into the jungle and grabbed a couple of harpies to put himself back where he needed to be to make sure that he could maintain that status quo. And in fact, you'll see even by the end of this, even after his death there, I was still only 1 level ahead of him. Okay? And that was it, despite him dying 2 times more than I did. So that's really, how you should react to Osiris is poke him whenever you can get away with it and just wait for a gank. Once that gank comes in, if it turns out to be a fatal gank, great, you're in a great position. And if the opposing Osiris doesn't pull some extra golden experience from somewhere else, like the Sun Wukong did for himself in this match, then you're going to pull far enough ahead where it's going to become a pub stomp very quickly. Alright? But in this particular instance, again, the Sun Wukong stole away some golden experience from Poseidon to make sure he could maintain that status quo. Now, whether or not that was the right decision is up to anyone's interpretation, because I don't know 100% of what was going on that side of the field, right? I only have what the wards were telling me. But that is how, even despite the fatal death that I was talking about, this is why he didn't start falling so far behind, because he was able to catch up to me at least in level to some extent due to that, right? If he hadn't stolen that experience from the jungle, then he would have been 2 levels down, and I would have been in a much better position to stomp him out of just lane completely. But that is how you want to react to Osiris. Poke him when you can, wait for a great gank, take advantage of that gank, and try and get him killed. Ideally, you get him killed, get the enemy Osiris killed, and then from that point onwards, you try your best to steamroll him and capitalize on that lead you've just found, right? But that is very specifically how you should approach fighting against Osiris, right? With that being said, thank you all very much for joining me. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, please ignore me. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions, or requests, please leave them down in the comments section below. And thank you all very much for joining me, and have a great 24 hours.